Hello and welcome to the BCRC show. I am your host, Clint Chappell, and we're really excited here today. We got a really cool guest, but before we get started, I just want to thank all the frontline workers and all the first responders for keeping us safe during the COVID-19 pandemic. You guys are doing amazing work. Please keep up, keeping us safe, and everyone that's working at the grocery stores, everywhere, keeping the sawmills running. You guys are doing amazing stuff. So, really, thank you very much and keep up the great work. Also, guys, make sure you're getting out there and supporting local business. It's a tough time right now for everybody. So make sure you guys are all getting out there, going to the restaurants. If you're not comfortable with it, use Skip the Dishes, use the apps, call the restaurant, do whatever it takes to make sure you're supporting local business. It's a tough time for everybody. Let's make sure that we're taking care of people and that we're really looking out for each other. So my guest here today is the MP for Cariboo Prince George, Todd Doherty. How's it going today, sir? Yeah, yeah,
I was just
exactly.
looking. I was looking to see if my dad came in. You said you called him sir.
Oh man, I made the same mistake I did just this last time. I knew it was gonna happen. I knew it was gonna happen. Everything good
Clint,
today?
everything's great, Clint. It's great to be here. And you know what? I just got to say, thanks for starting off by saying thank you to our frontline heroes. I really, whether it is our first responders, our police, fire, ambulance, or our nurses that are and doctors that are on the front line, our healthcare workers, or the people that have been stocking the shelves. All the folks are, or the delivery drivers, the truckers, people that have just kept us going during this epidemic is. I don't think we can say thank you enough, and so it's great that you started your show that way.
It's honestly something I firmly believe in. I think we're a community, no matter where you are in Canada or in the world. We're all humans, and we need to be looking after each other, checking in on each other, and making sure that everything is and everyone's doing good during this time. So I
Yep.
honestly, I think it's very important that we continue to pay respects to everyone, keeping us safe, and wearing masks. I know everything kind of becomes politicized and all that stuff, but it's just really taking care of thy neighbor type idea. I think
Yeah.
that's very, very important. So
The world is a different place, and I couldn't agree with you more. I think we have to. I don't. I was just talking to a friend of mine down south over the last couple of days, and just seems that whether it's social media or the world is very divisive, and I think that um, I think we fail to remember that our next door neighbors are humans, and that people are just uh, trying to do their very best, and we can't be kind enough. I think we have to do more always for our neighbors. So
yeah, I agree. I think you said everything that I agree with there. So let's just get in some questions right now. I got a couple questions for yourself. So
sure.
business here in northern BC are still struggling because of the coronavirus of COVID-19. People are worried about a second wave as kids go back to school. Obviously, I don't think they're worried about a second wave. I think the second wave is now here.
Hmm.
But there seems to be an increase in positive tests in BC. There's a lot of uncertainty. As the members of parliament and federal representatives, what messages do you have for families here in Cariboo and Prince George area?
I think the biggest message is to be safe. There's a lot of folks that think COVID is a hoax and things like that. And listen, we've been very fortunate here in the northern British Columbia, where we haven't seen um, a lot of cases, but uh, it's. I think families need to be very careful. I think we as a community need to be very careful and keep doing what Dr. Bonnie Henry says. I think we've had great leadership by Dr. Bonnie Henry, and British Columbia was one of the first provinces to really kind of implement some COVID measures, and I think that really helped us to kind of come out of the lockdown faster than others. But what we're seeing now is kind of an uptick in cases, and I think that can be attributed to long weekends in beautiful British Columbia, and people going out um, and forgetting that we're in the middle of an epidemic. a health crisis. So I think the best thing is just to keep up our vigilance, keep doing what we're doing, um, keep your circles as tight as possible, to your family and friends, and if you are going to go out and have that that barbecue or whatever, just make sure to social distance.
Yeah, for sure. I think everyone, for me personally, I'm a big sports guy. I see the sports coming back on
Yeah,
TV. I see the, baseball, you can kind of smell the hot dogs in the air, the
football.
hockey
Yeah,
playoffs, football, everything. Everything's starting to feel normal again. I think, just look at the stands. No one's in the stands yet. So let's
yeah.
just make sure that we're all paying attention. If you guys have any questions for Todd, please leave them in the comment section. He's here to answer questions, not only from myself, but from everyone viewing here tonight. So please leave your questions in the comment section. Visit us on Instagram at the BCRC. Go to Twitter, BC_resources. Follow us on LinkedIn. Hit us up on YouTube. There's so many things. I always forget one, but we're everywhere right now. Download the podcast, the BCRC podcast.
Listen to you guys.
Yeah, that's right.
You're everywhere.
Yeah, that's right. I'm getting better at this. I got this big screen in front of me. It tells me what I'm supposed to do. The El Presidente's hit me with a stick. Make sure you mention Instagram. As he doesn't even have Instagram. So let's get to another question here. Many businesses
Yeah.
had to shutter their doors, but like, how has your office remained open while other businesses have?
Well, yeah, this has probably been the most stressful time as in my elected career. Our job is 24 hours a day. It's 365 days out of the year, and I always tell my team, just because it's a Christmas or Easter or a long weekend um, or a COVID health crisis or a global pandemic, our jobs don't stop. It really does go on 24 hours a day. So we've been very busy, and we've all been quarantined. This is my home office here. You can see some of my sports stuff behind, and our great flags. And all of our staff have been working from home. And then rotating in both my Prince George and my Ottawa office. One day it'll be one staff, another day it'll be another staff. They've got the calendar all mapped out so that we always have that representative in our office, either in Ottawa or in Prince George, and there to assist constituents. It's been really taxing. It's been very tough. I mean, um, you're hearing stories of people losing everything. Um, People worried about their health, people worried about their financial well-being, and in many cases, um, we're helpless to be or powerless to be able to do anything. There are a lot of businesses that were unable to access the Canada Emergency Business Account, or even now with the CERB, some of the employees won't come back out of fear as well, and so there's a lot of things that this crisis has kind of brought to the forefront that have been challenging to work with.
Yeah, no, you definitely hit on a lot there. Um, I think it was last week that you got appointed the special advisor to leader on mental health and wellness.
Right?
Mental health is a big deal for me as well. Like, I really think that everyone, though I've never suffered from depression or anything of that nature, I really want people to know that I'm always here to talk to, and I really hope people are reaching out during these times right now where it can be quite lonely and quite dark
Yeah.
and quite quiet. So can you kind of explain to me that role that you're playing now? And I'm guessing that's one of the honors of your career.
Yeah. Well, I think we could do this. We can scrap the rest of the questions and let's just talk about mental health. Um, I've, it is an honor. I mean, I struggle with it because, my best friend committed suicide when we were 14, and that is the first time that I kind of experienced that kind of traumatic event. And I went into social work. I worked with at-risk youth and at-risk teens on the streets, crisis intervention, suicide prevention. and then moved from that into aviation and trade, and but always maintain the schooling and the education and the skills that I learned uh, so long ago in my personal life, whether I was coaching minor hockey or minor sports, or with my friends and family that were in the that are first responders and veterans and in the military. Um, you know, uh, we have to break that stigma of mental health, mental illness, mental injury. We have to do everything in our power to make sure that those who are suffering know that they can come forward, and they can share, or they can say that they're not doing well, and that they won't be looked down upon. They won't be seen as weak. They won't be seen as crazy, and that we can get the help for them. I've um, I've attended far too many funerals of first responders or teens or just people that have uh, taken their own life. And for me, I just think as leaders and as a community, I mean, you started your show by talking about your neighbors, and I think that, and I've said this forever, is that our world, and we all move at a frenetic pace. That we all, time is money, and money is everything, and so nobody's got the time to really look up and say, "How are you doing?" or to check in, or we don't want to worry or bother the person that's walking by us. And we always say that, well, if they had a problem, that they would come forward to us, and I hope everything's okay. And nobody wants to meddle in other people's business. And I always say, like, it just takes 3 words: "Are you okay?" And that can really uh, change somebody's life. And I don't think we should be afraid to ask that. I think we should be doing what we can to ask our neighbors and our friends and our colleagues and our family, how are you doing, and checking in with them every once in a while. And this uh, COVID pandemic it's really led to a lot of people being even more isolated. Um, whether they're at home or locked away in their own, in the room. If they're struggling with mental health, this just is going to amplify it. And, our leader is somebody that I worked with for when I was first elected. Many people know this already. I already had a framework for my first private members bill to do with a national framework on post-traumatic stress disorder, and developing a national framework on that. And our new leader, Aaron O'Toole, in his former capacity as Veterans Affairs Minister, but also in his private volunteer life with the True Patriot Love Foundation, looking after veterans and military families with respect to mental health and what have you. I knew that he was a champion with that. And so I enlisted his help early on in my elected career as to how can I get my bill, what tips does he have for me to get my bill steered through and hopefully to where it becomes legislation. And so he's recognized early on that mental health is a major issue, and that we should be doing whatever we can to break that stigma and build awareness, educate people on it. The fact that he kind of broke it away from the traditional health file and carved it out and gave it to me as a special advisor to him on this, so that I'm developing policy and influencing policy as we move forward to really make a difference. So I'm very proud.
You can hear the passion in your voice.
It
You can hear it come out in you when you're talking about this sort of stuff. That you're not. It's not just lip service. Like
no.
I can hear the passion.
Yeah, I get very emotional about it. Another friend of mine committed suicide uh, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago now, and uh, last year I was asked to speak at a former employee of mine, um, speak on behalf of the family at her daughter's funeral, to give the eulogy. And I just, if you're thinking about that, or if you're thinking about the suicide epidemics that are plaguing our First Nations communities where you have children as young as 4 or 5 that are joining in these suicide packs, and the fact that they are, they're only their only way out of this, the life that they have is death, is just absolutely, it hurts my heart, and I think we need to do more. I think, I don't know whether you saw the video I did, but I think the message that we have to give people is that they have so much value. And when they're in those dark clouds, when those clouds are around them and they can't see through them, and they feel that maybe, their loved ones would be in a better place without them there, and they're with them in their life, they're just hurting their loved ones, and so they choose death. And I wish we could just get through. It's like I said, if I could go back to that one night where I saw my, the last time I saw my friend, we parted ways. I wish I could just tell him that, that I loved him, and that, you know our world is a better place when, because they're in it, and we need them in it. I think if people understood the pain, the guilt, and the grief that you feel so many years afterwards, when somebody does that, I would think that most of people would maybe choose otherwise, I guess. But
Well, I
yeah,
honestly, the passion in your voice, the way that you're talking about this, I firmly believe that you are going to champion this, and it's going to be a huge success for
yeah,
everyone. I just hope that everyone, we're going to go in a little bit of a different direction here, but these first couple minutes, I really wanted to hit on mental health, because I, as Todd has talked about myself as well, like I've had friends that have done, that have committed suicide as well, and I know people that have, and it's not, it's, we just have to do better at communicating and do
yeah,
better at knowing that reaching your hand through that dark cloud to let them know that you're there, and
yeah.
that you're helping. So, uh, no, I appreciate that, and I appreciate everything you're doing with Bill, the PTSD
See,
bill, Bill C-211.
yes, C-211 passed, making Canada the first country in the world and it was in June of 2018. It passed, making us the first country to adopt a federal piece of legislation to combat post-traumatic stress disorder. And then I've got a new bill that I introduced this year, and coincidentally enough, it's C-211 as well too. I don't know whether that's a good omen or not, but I hope. But that's to do with violence against first responders and healthcare workers. You know, I I think I have a lot of friends that are doctors and nurses and first responders, and you hear the numbers of paramedics that experience violence when they're just trying to save somebody's life, or nurses that are getting beaten up while they're trying to save somebody's life and administer critical medical attention. And it's not part of the job description
No.
for these people. And so my new bill C-211 is to recognize that the victim of violence uh, is a first responder or a healthcare worker, and it's an aggravating factor in sentencing of the person, the perpetrator. So
Well, no, that's another really good thing to be bringing attention to and shining a light on. So that's amazing stuff that you're doing, guys. If you have any questions, I see people watching. A lot of times, people just get nervous to ask questions. They talk a lot on Twitter all the time, and a little bit of Facebook warriors and stuff like that. But this is your chance to ask some questions here. So
Twitter tough.
yeah, Twitter tough. So if you guys have any questions, please fire away. We'll do our best to answer them. I'm just bugging you guys watching. So one thing I kind of want to talk about here too a little bit is the resource sector, and
Right.
obviously you're in you're riding here
Yeah.
in Prince George Cariboo, massive amounts of sawmill industry, pulp mill, mining industry, and I know right now that wood is just skyrocketed through the roof. It's like 900, 1,000 right now or something like that.
Wow.
And I know everything's going good, but what can we do to prevent that next downturn? Like, what can the federal government or what can your riding do to help make sure that we don't experience another downturn?
Oh, well, you're talking to somebody that also used to log as well too. I ran skidder and I bucked out west of Williams Lake, and my father-in-law ran his own logging show for 27 years, and um, so I get the highs and lows, but first and foremost, and it's something if for those who have been following along with my political career, I was the national chair of our softwood lumber, our softwood caucus, and first and foremost, we need to secure a new softwood lumber agreement. That'll bring some assurances and some confidence and consistency to our industry. You know that British Columbia is the largest producer of softwood in our nation. Over 65% of the products that we sell go south to the U.S. And nowhere else in our nation does the blips that we have or the wars that we have, the softwood lumber wars, the trade wars that we have with the U.S. Um, uh, regarding forestry or softwood lumber. Nowhere else has it felt harder than here at home in British Columbia and predominantly in our riding.
Mm-hmm.
The 2017 wildfires really decimated our fiber supply, or actually really impacted our fiber supply that was already decimated from the pine beetle and the fir
Yeah.
beetle and then the spruce beetle that we had, the infestation that we had. It's getting harder and harder for our producers to source fiber. It's getting more and more costly. It's getting harder for our producers to get rail cars to actually ship their product as well too. So there's some major issues that we have. We also have a stumpage system that provincial stumpage system that isn't as responsive to the blips that we have in terms of our forestry market.
Yeah,
As
because right now, in
let's
like 2 months from now, the stumpage is going to be completely out of whack of
totally
what wood's worth, and then all of a sudden we're going to be, hopefully, I don't want to play down Debbie Downer
right.
here, but it could affect us negatively where we go right back in the tank again. How does someone go about fixing something like
Right.
that?
So first and foremost, we have to secure a softwood lumber agreement because if the province or the provincial government were to tinker with our stumpage rate system right now, it could be seen as an unfair trade balance. It could be the WTO could or the U.S. could file something with the WTO in terms of trade manipulation of our products and our industry. So securing that softwood lumber agreement has to be front and center. I always say that I was the first one that mentioned forestry and softwood in our when I was elected because I did one of the very first speech response to the speech from the throne. I lied. I was the second one. The first person was my colleague Dan Elbis from Similkameen Nicola down in South Okanagan and West Bank. But yeah, it's always front and center for me. I mean, thousands and thousands of jobs and layoffs have taken place all across our province and mill closures that are happening. And it's not going to be necessarily the big guys that are feeling it. It's the small mom and pops that are really the ones that are it's really hurting. But there's a number of things that we need to do. Our forestry industry, because it is a cornerstone industry, we will rebound. It may not look as the same as what we had previously. I mean, there used to be 30 or 35 sawmills even in around Prince George. Little pocket mills and what have you, right?
Well, you
So
got Eagle Bay, you got
yeah,
Upper Fraser,
exactly.
you had Rustad's, you
Yeah,
had Netherlands, like
yeah.
Isle Pierre just closed.
So it is a major issue. So there will be a kind of a rationalization of the industry. I always say, um, out of these challenges that we face, new opportunities kind of come forward. That's the pellet industry was developed. The pellet technology was developed right here in our region, just to the west of us in Vanderhoof, and I think we've got others that are looking at uh, wood waste for biofuels and what have you. So I think there's other things that we'll be looking at. But if I was to say what's the main thing that we need a softwood lumber agreement first
Yeah.
and foremost. We need to get that money that the U.S. has unfairly been holding, billions and billions of dollars that have been holding at the border from our Canadian producers. Can you imagine if they had those billions of dollars now during the COVID? It'd really be able to help, some of our struggling organizations. And I think we need to get back to the level playing ground. The U.S. always seems to think that, and don't get me wrong, I'm one of these people that say that we've got strong friends and familial ties with the U.S., but when we are doing our trade negotiations, we're fighting for Canadian jobs.
Yeah.
We're not friends at that point.
Nope.
We can be friends afterwards. You're a sports guy. I'm a sports guy. We can be on. I got a fly that's buzzing around. Sorry, not having a flashback. I, I, I just think that when we sit across the way, the charm offensive doesn't work. We need to make sure that we are fighting for every Canadian job that we can, and that has to be front and foremost.
Oh, you go in
And
that negotiation room, it's a game, right? Like it's
100%.
you have to win, right? Like it's
Yep.
negotiations cutthroat, and you have to go in there with what you are willing to give up and what you want to get.
Yeah.
And I think it is what it is.
Yeah. I'll take you back to when when I was first elected, just after 2015. And the softwood lumber agreement had just started to lapse in October or the grace period. Sorry, the grace period was lapsing in October or September of 2016 that we had negotiated the 1 year grace period, and every day we were fighting with these guys across the way. And I hate to be partisan, but we challenging these guys. What are you going to do? We kept telling them this is real life here. This isn't we're not talking about uh, you know rainbows and fairy tales. This impacts real people in my riding, and we kept getting Prime Minister Trudeau's got a newfound bromance. Chrystia Freeland said, as a matter of fact, there's a newfound friendship with President Obama, and they would have a cure to the softwood irritant in 100 days, and here we sit 3 years later, and there's still nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And this, and I remind them over and over and over again. Just one of the last questions I asked before we broke for summer last year was one of the BC Liberal MPs that answered, and he said everything's great in BC. I don't know what you're talking about. Unemployment's down, and I said I don't know what this guy is on. Like we've got like you're seeing constantly. There was tens of thousands of mill closure or mill jobs that were lost. Just one mill at Christmas time, one mill in 24 hours, we lost 3,000 jobs on the island,
Yep.
and that makes it. When I tell my colleagues that are, their riding is 3 square blocks or 4 square blocks in downtown Toronto, that my riding is 84,000 square kilometers, and we are a natural resource region. Our bread and butter is natural resources. That their policy is absolutely hurting us,
Yeah.
and it's real world here. That you said that I was passionate about mental health. Well, I'm passionate about our friends and our families in this riding, because we just it just seems that there's always that urban versus rural divide, and
No,
and
there
it just
absolutely
keep
is. You
and it
even look
just
at
keeps getting worse.
even look at right now, like in BC
Yeah,
specifically, maybe not a east west thing, but like south and north, right? Like everyone right now, and the forest fires in California are awful,
yeah.
just so terrible. But everyone in Vancouver right now is complaining about the air quality and all and everything else.
Where was
Well,
that concern when
where
we were
was that?
burning?
Where was that? We had a huge pine beetle epidemic. No one
Yeah,
even talked about it. We had huge forest fires. No one even talked about it down there. And now all of a sudden,
yeah,
everyone down there has some smoke. And again, it's terrible. It is terrible what's going on in California, Oregon, and
yeah.
Seattle and Washington. But where was this help? Where was the concern for us?
Totally,
And it's not.
totally.
At the time, it was terrible, yeah. But now all of that damage came to fruition here in the last 2 years, where all the pine that we'd been harvesting and building up for the last 40 years is gone, all
Yeah.
because of the pine beetle. And then all the other growth that we've had gets destroyed by fires. And then where was our help? Where was
Yeah.
our government's help? Where was the people's help? I told some people I was going to say that on the show, that you gave me a
No.
real good
No.
lob there, and I just, that really, to quote to quote a Family Guy reference, that really grinds my gears.
I
I
gotta, I gotta share a story with you, and I gotta remember that we're live, and I promise I won't say the exact words that I used, but in 2018, that when the wildfires were out west, and because we had just come through the 2017 wildfires, and the work that we did with that, and then where everything was burning out west of us, and in Burns Lake and Fraser Lake and Vanderhoof and Fort St. James, and still down in some of my riding as well too. And I was driving around, like I couldn't get a call back from uh, our provincial colleagues at all. Like I was like, I got elected officials out there going, are you able to get anybody to talk to you? Because I can't get anybody to talk. And then I was driving my truck one day in Prince George, and one of the radio stations said, we're just standing by right now for a press conference live from uh, uh, the Emergency Operations Center here in Prince George, where uh, Premier John Horgan and Minister of Veterans Affairs Harjit Sajjan are going to talk about the wildfires. And at this point, we've been burning for like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean they're in Prince George and they haven't even told us? They haven't probably didn't tell Shirley Bond. They probably didn't tell Mike Morris or John Rustad or Corley Oakes, or they didn't tell me. Or they didn't tell Bob Zimmer. So I found out where they were, and I went in, and before all the media's out there, we're getting ready to scrum, and I'm probably talking out of turn here, but I threw open the door and went in, and Premier Horgan's staff were there, and so were Minister Sajan's staff, and I said, "Where are they?" And they said, "Oh, they're meeting with somebody." I said, "Okay, well, I want to meet with them before they go out there, and I want to be alone with them." Oh, well, okay. And so the premier comes in, and minister comes in, and I said, "You guys get out." And so their staff go out, and I said, "I don't know how things were done before, but there's a new sheriff in town. And you guys haven't even uttered the word wildfire. We've been burning for 6 weeks, and this is an emergency. And so, wouldn't it be a stronger message that we're all standing together, regardless of our political backgrounds, rather than you guys sneaking into somebody's riding, whether it's MLA Bonds or my riding or Mike Morris's riding, sneaking into grandstand, and now all of a sudden you care? Where was this when the regional districts were phoning trying to find how to get help? Like, because their communities were born, and the mayors back, you guys were silent for 6 weeks. Now you want to sneak in and say you care? This is absolute BS. That's not the language I used. I used much stronger language. You know what? And I said, everybody talks about doing business differently. Oh, if I get elected, I'm going to open lines of communication. Well, open the lines of communication, and actually be there for your people. Like, don't sneak it. Like, I was so mad. I'm
Yeah.
like, don't sneak into my riding. Especially when we're coming off of 2017, where people are still suffering and have not been made whole, like till this day. Like today that we're talking, we still have people that have not been made whole from 2017. And then, couple that with 2018. Now we got COVID. But man, you got me on a soapbox now. We're probably way off topic, but
Oh, it's
I
all good. It's
I
all
just like just exactly what you said. Like you know, this this concern. Oh my gosh, it's the smoke is killing me. Well, what about the people that were, when it was like midnight and pitch black here at noon,
Oh, Hunter
in
Millhouse gets
in
evacuated.
yeah,
Warriors Lake getting evacuated. Like,
yeah,
where was the help? Where was the concern then? No, it's nice
right,
at the beach in Vancouver. So I got a question here
sure.
from an audience member. What projects interest you for BC growth?
Oh, well, Canada LNG, I think that is I mean, that's one of the largest investments in Canadian history, or LNG Canada. I think that is big. I think we've got West Coast Olefins. I think that is a neat one that I don't know enough about it, but I've talked with the proponent Ken James as well a number of times. I think if we can get that to fruition here in Prince George and in northern BC, I mean, what a game changer I think
Oh,
for
for
us.
sure.
I think if we can just capitalize on some of these projects that are just waiting in the wings, I think it will be real game changers for us. And that's
Yeah.
I think that we have to keep going along the way to make sure we've got some great First Nations leadership that have all jumped on as well too, and really look to kind of partner with these proponents and do some great things. I think if we can stay away from these harmful policies, I think that LNG Canada is, or Canada LNG, which well, I can never remember which one,
Hmm.
but I think that is probably one of the most exciting ones, and then West Coast Olefins, obviously.
You said harmful policies. What are you talking about there?
Yeah, what is it, C-49 or C-69? The no tanker bills. I think those are the things that probably are the ones that really kind of, or even C-55, which was the Fisheries Policy Act. That is the Prime Minister really paying back his third party, Tides Canada, all these guys, paying these guys back and for getting him elected in 2015. You know, I we always have to balance environment with anything that we do. You're an outdoorsman, I'm an outdoorsman. We like to be able to fish, we like to be able to hunt, we like to be able to swim and breathe the air that we have up here. So we want to make sure everything is balanced, and we want to make sure that the that we're walking the right walk that we have in terms of reconciliation as well too. But we have to recognize that we need strong projects, resource-based projects, to actually boost our economy. We are a trading nation, and our nation's success is predicated on us being able to, well, produce world-class products, which we know, our oil and gas companies are some of the most sustainable, and they use some of the most world class and sustainable technologies. We know our forestry producers uh, harvest in some of the most sustainable ways. For every tree that they harvest, they plant anywhere between 3 to 6 trees. We know that we harvest only between 1 and 3% of our fiber supply annually. So we've already got some world class leading resource based organizations. We need to make sure that we are taking full advantage of our geographic position and the opportunities that we have to really boost our nation.
Yeah, I mean, go back to the West Coast Oil Fencing our project. Obviously, we're a big advocate for that. We're advocating for that project. And if you want to learn more about that project, visit the bcrc.ca. We have links. We have links to their website. It shows all of our advocacy pages that we've done.
Yeah,
You can find one of my very first interviews. I think it was the third interview I did with Ken James. It was lots of fun. If you guys need to learn anything about that project, I think that's where Ken actually broke the news that the project was possibly moving out to McLeod Lake area. So that was like
yeah.
a big game changer for us. I remember we were getting calls from the news the next day and stuff. That was pretty neat. So another question here from the audience, and I'm not too sure if you're going to be able to. I don't know if this is more directly at you or at me, but we'll ask you first. Have
Sure.
you heard any progress on the new projects such as BC Hemp or the West Coast Oilfins project?
No, then that's another project too. BC Hemp's another one that I think is exciting for our area as well too. But again, I'll defer to you. The last I heard, gosh, it would be months ago. It would
Yeah.
be probably before COVID. So I don't know.
Yeah, no. So I'll go and I'll answer these questions here. So really, I think the West Coast Oil Fins is still in their plotting phase and trying to figure out locations and everything else. I they announced the McLeod Lake possible move on our program. So I still think they're in a little bit of that phase. Really, no updates. I think Ken might have posted an interview here on the West Coast Oilfins website with Ellis Ross out that way. So I think that's something to look for. I don't know how many updates are given on it. I just found out about 4 minutes before I got in here that was that was done. But so that's something. The BC Hemp Project. I think that they're just again in the same phase. I think they announced a lot of stuff on our show. That was the biggest show we did. There was like 150 people watching. Lots of comments. That was lots of fun. Remy Balaj was on the show with me,
Great.
and it was good time. And again, I think they're just these projects, these big scale projects take time, and
Yeah.
they take a lot to get into that next phase of the project. So I think that's where they both are.
Yeah.
I wish I had more. I wish I could answer that a little bit better, but I just can't because there's a lot of moving parts in both those projects. I personally am a big believer that they're both going to happen. I want them both to
Yeah.
happen. I'm a contractor. I want the work, and I think you're right with the BC Hemp project and with the West Coast Oilfins. They're not just region changers. They're not
No,
just city changers. They're not just province changers. They're Canada changers. They're national changers.
absolutely.
They're international changing, and it's going to change the way that people see our province. Going to
Yep.
change the way that people see our region, and there's nothing but good things that can come from those projects. So we want
Yeah.
them to happen, and Remy and Ken, if you guys are watching this, give me a call. Let's let's break
Well,
some more news.
I wanted to actually mention something too. Like I got to admit, I didn't know a lot about hemp when
Yeah,
I first started talking with.
yeah,
I probably met Remy maybe 2, 3 years ago through our friend Mr. Quibel,
yeah.
and I
Shout
you
out to
know I
Vortex.
yeah, and that's right. And then like it's so interesting how they can use the product as well too. Like it's there's so many uses for it. I was blown away. So
Well, yeah,
I hope I hope those projects go through, and I hope yeah, it really will be a game changer. And I think I was as I said earlier to you offline that I was down in the Lower Mainland, and there was a gentleman that was right beside me. Um, I'm cheap, so I pulled my trailer down, so I didn't have to incur a hotel cost actually. So uh, there's a guy that's right beside me. It doesn't make any sense, but listen, I've been stuck in my house for 4 months, so that was my little camping trip. But
good, good.
the guy beside me had lived here um, for a decade, and then moved away, and he was in Vancouver, and then lived in Calgary. And him and his wife said, we really like living there, but we just Prince George in northern BC gets a bad rap,
Yep.
kind of thing. And so I marketed our region on the world stage for the better part of over a dozen years when I was with the airport authority, and I was on the world stage talking about our airport expansion and what we could do. And I've been in the boardrooms. That was part of the reason when I was asked to run. That was part of the things that really fueled me, because I've been in boardrooms where somebody asks me again, or says, "Oh, you're from Prince George," and they kind of crinkle their nose, and they,
Yeah, yeah,
how's that working out for you, right?
yeah.
And it just fries me to no end, because man, we've got so much opportunity here, and we've got so many amazing people. I just we need projects like that can really kind of put us on the map, I think. So
Oh, for sure. So you've been very gracious with your time. We only got a couple more questions, and
sure.
then then it's gonna be time for me to go home and you to get to bed yourself. So we got a question here. Do you see Prince George ever being a center for firefighting water bombers and crews? So with all the fires that we've had here, like what do you see going there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the last projects that I worked on when I was at the airport was, because we have such a long runway. We were working with a company. Pat Bell was still one of the elected officials at that time, and we were working with a company out of the States that had a 747 water bomber. And so we could station it here. It was out of the States, so their fire seasons are sometimes different than ours. It's overlapping right now, but we could station a whole kind
Oh, all right.
of tent base.
Just one second here. You're just cutting in and out, so we're just gonna hold on a second here,
Sure.
and I think you're good. I think you're good now.
All right, we could build them air tanker base here,
All right. So I'm just gonna step in here. Obviously, we're having a couple
so that
technical difficulties. Not the end of the world. We're just gonna wait a couple seconds till Todd unfreezes, and I'm not too sure if he has right now or not. No, he hasn't. Uh, so yeah, if you guys want any more information, if you want to visit the shop, please go to the bcrc.ca. We want to see more t-shirts out there. We want to see some sweatshirts, some hoodies, some hats. You know, if you guys see me at the local farmers market, please make sure you hit me up and ask for a sticker. I'm always carrying them on me at the farmers market. It's kind of one of my deals here. I'm not too sure if Todd's gonna be able to rejoin us or not. It looks like it might be kaput, but I'm gonna give it one last shot here. Todd, can you hear me?
hear you. Can
Okay,
you
well, maybe we'll try to do this without you're frozen, but
hear
it just
me?
sounds yeah, I can hear you. It just sounds like you're that yeah that you think we could do it, and if we built a decent place to store these planes, I think you think it could happen. Yeah, that's going to be the answer.
100%.
Yeah, there we go. It's all good. This is the one thing about Prince George. The internet can be real shoddy up here. That's just the facts tell us. And Shaw, can you please fix that? So right now, I think I'm actually gonna close this off because it is freezing pretty good. I just want to thank Todd for everything today. Great interview. We took his time and Catherine, I see your comment here. Todd, if you can hear me, she just wants to say thank you for standing up for Parliament in January about when Canada should have had a comprehensive plan for COVID. I wish the Liberals had listened. So that is a compliment. And yeah, thanks for the time, Todd. So for Todd Doherty, I am Clint Chappell, and this has been the BCRC Show. Thanks, guys.